And I'm going to say a good evening and welcome. This evening, we are going to be looking at a human vulnerability through Hinei Kachomer, through one of these piyyutim that we are really familiar with at this time of year. Chazan Rebecca is going to take us through it. I might have something a little to say later on, but for now, I'm going to hand you over to the very capable Chazan Rebecca.
Good evening, everyone. It's really lovely to see you. So we're just going to start with a little bit of a nigun. So this is a nigun for Hinei Kachomer, a tune for Hinei Kachomer, the one that I grew up with, which is to say, of course, it's the right one. No, which is to say that this is the tune I grew up with, and everyone will have their own tune for this. And here we're going to learn it a little bit today. So it goes like this. Yai da 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 dum ba dai dai ya ba dai ya ba dai dai yai da 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 dai dai yai da 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 dai ya ba bye yai ba bye 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 yai bye 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 yai da I'm going to sing it a few times over. Join in with me where you can, and we'll come back to it later as well. So just lift it up a little bit. Yai da 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 dum ba dai, yai da 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 dai, yai da 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 dai, yai da 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 dai, yai da 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 da, yai yai da. Now we're going to look at the words a little bit in the first verse. Hinei Kachomer beyad hayotzer Birtzoto marchiv uvirtzoto mekatzer Ken anachnu beyadcha chesed notzer Labrit habeit Vial tefel yetzer One more verse Ki hinei ka'even Beyad hamasatet Virtzoto ches Uvirtzoto mechatet Ken אנחנו בידך בחיי וממוות לברית הבית ואל תפן ליצר. So this is a piyyut. It's a piyyut that we sing on Kol Nidre night usually. Rhiannon, do you want to say anything else before I carry on?
Not at the moment.
Okay, all right. So welcome to human vulnerability. That's what Rhiannon and I are going to be talking about a little bit this evening, with the subject of that being this piyyut, this Hinei Kachomer, talking all about our being in the hands of the potter, like clay in the potter's hands. The potter will expand and contract the clay at will, and so are we also in God's hands. And the refrain, the chorus, labrit habeit vial tefen la yetzer. The first bit, sort of look to or recall the covenant, labrit, and then the last bit, vial tefen la yetzer, has got some machloket as to the translation exactly of this word yetzer here. So we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. So in this translation that I've put up here for you, it talks about an inclination, because yetzer is the inclination that people have to. Usually, it's paired with ra. In fact, with the word ra, which means bad or evil. So the evil inclination, yetzer hara. This is also the inclination that, however, is the thing that makes us have sex and produce children. So obviously, this yetzer hara has like some good outcomes as well, and we'll talk more about that later as well. But we use it in the context of our kind of base inclination. But another way to translate this yetzer is the accuser. It says, do not heed the accuser. And many people have liked this translation, because if you think about the context, here we are, we're B'Yom Hadin, we're on the day of judgment, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, the day of judgment, right? And we're standing at those gates before God, and the traditional kind of picture is of a jury or a council of defense and prosecution. And so the accuser, la yetzer, possibly Satan or Satan, although Judaism doesn't have an actual satanic situation, but we do have Hasatan, who is like the opposite of God, almost, I guess. So we have this image of the accuser prosecuting us at the gates of heaven, at the gates, you know, while they're, if you think of Ne'ilah, while they're about to close these gates, and you're standing there going, please write me into the book of life, please write me into the book of life. And the prosecution is going, oh, there's lots and lots of reasons why, you know, I'm going to accuse you of all kinds of things and we're not going to write you into the book of life. And so this piyyut could easily be about that. But there is another way to look at this yetzer, which is the inclination, as I just said. So we could talk about it as look to the covenant and disregard our inclination. What can that mean? What can that mean to disregard the inclination? So let's look and see. Where is all of this coming from? Because this piyyut actually is kind of an amazing reference to all kinds of things. The piyyut itself is actually referenced to Jeremiah and also to Isaiah. But if we think about the word Yud Tzadi Reish, as I've put it in the slide here, the root of the word, Yetzer, Yotzer, Vayitzer, Yotzreinu. We could use it in all kinds of ways. And let's see how the rabbis have connected those different ways. This is a favorite game of theirs to play, which is to say they like to play word games with Hebrew letters. And it's particularly because the root of the Hebrew word can mean one thing and can mean another thing. And sometimes those things are intimately connected. So let's have a look. All right, so we have this yetzer. Sorry, hang on. Click off here. Here we go. Yeah. And if we're going to move on from this idea of the prosecutor, let's talk about the flood for a second. So here we have two narratives, one before the flood and one after it. So let's just look at the text for a second here. Genesis 6:5. God saw Adonai, Vayar Adonai, Kirabarat Ha'adam. How great human wickedness was, Ba'aret, on the earth. V'chol Yetzer, right, there's that Yetzer, Machshavot Libo, Rak Ra Kol Hayom, and how every inclination or plan devised by the human mind was nothing but evil all the time. Nothing but bad, right? God saw that the earth was wicked and decided to destroy it, right? And God regretted having made man or humankind on earth. And with a sorrowful heart, Adonai said, I will blot out from the earth humankind whom I created. So here we have V'chol Yetzer, all of people's inclinations were not good. They were prone to mistakes. God regretted the mistakes that God had made and wanted to start again. Okay? This is the beginning of the narrative before the flood. So if you look at the pictures that I've put here, so this is the first narrative here, is before the flood. This is kind of like an image of the evilness of humankind. Okay? All right. Now let's come to after the flood. So after the flood, a couple of chapters of Genesis later, Vayarach Adonai et reach hanichoach. Right, God smelled the pleasing smell of barbecue. And Vayomer Adonai el libo, and God said to God's self, like in God's heart, right, there is a resolve within God. Lo osif lekalel od et ha'adama ba'avor ha'adam. I never again will do this. I will never destroy humankind. Why not? Ki yetzer lev ha'adam ra min urav. Because people are people. They are, their inclination exists from their youth. And because of that, I will never again destroy human beings, because it's not their fault. That's what they're like. They make me sacrifices and it's good. And I can see that they have an excellent capacity for good as well. I'm going to focus on that. But I'm going to recognize that people are, are human and physical, and they have no control over this evil inclination, this Yetzer Hara, this base instinct, whatever you want to call it, this ability to make mistakes. They have no control over that because that's how they're made from the beginning. So now we have these two narratives. We have to reconcile them. The first narrative says, I'm destroying the earth because people are bad. And the second narrative says, I'm not destroying the earth because people can't help that they're bad. So how are we going to put these two things together? So the rabbis noticed this problem, right? And they also noticed that Yetzer is used in both moments. And they also noticed that Yetzer is connected intimately with the word Yotzer, meaning to create. Okay? Hayotzer is the creator. Okay. So let's talk about that now. So there's a midrash. Midrash Shemot Rabbah. Here's the midrash. Rhiannon, do you want to read it for us? Just.
Sure.
Thank you.
What is, we are the clay and you are the potter? Israel said, Master of the universe, you had it written for us, behold, like the clay in the hands of the potter, so you are in my hand, house of Israel. Therefore, even though we sin and commit provocations before you, do not depart from us. Why? Because we are the clay and you are our potter. Come and see this potter. If he crafts a barrel and leaves a pebble in it, when it emerges from the kiln, it leaks from the place of the pebble and loses all the liquid that is placed in it. Who caused the barrel to leak what was inside it? The potter who left the pebble in. So too, Israel said before the Holy One, blessed be he, Master of the universe, you created in us an evil inclination from our youth. As it is stated, as the inclination of man's heart is evil from his youth. It causes us to sin before you, but you do not remove this instigator from us.
Thank you, Rhiannon. Okay, so there's kind of a lot of wordage there, but essentially what we're saying here is, look, if you, the creator, God, if you made something and it's flawed from its creation, just as if a potter crafts a pot and leaves an accidental pebble or an on-purpose pebble, whatever kind of pebble, inside the pot, and then that creates a flaw in the pot, then we can't be to blame for this, because you created us, and you created us as people with this base inclination. Okay, so this is the midrash that basically talks more about this idea that we are that it sort of like elucidates the idea from Genesis 8:21, right, where we talk about how we're created like this, and that's just the way we're created. So let's now look, because the rabbis then said, okay, we've now said that our Yetzer is intimately connected with our Yotzer, with our creator, right? So let's look at that. Intimately connected with the potter. And who is the potter? The potter is God in this metaphor. So let's look at a place where actually that word is used in creation terms. So if we go to Genesis 2:7, it says, Vayitzer Adonai Elohim et ha'adam. And God formed, created, made the human. Afar min ha'adama vayipach ba'apav nishmat chayim vayhi ha'adam lenefesh chaya. God vayitzerd Adam by blowing into the nostrils the breath of life, and the human being became a human being. So here the rabbis say, see, where it's intimately connected, it's all connected. The way that we're formed is by God, and God is the creator, and we have this inclination, this Yetzer, and it must be from God. This narrative is played out in the story of Noah and in the story of Adam and Eve. But let's skip several centuries and whatever, and come to Jeremiah and Isaiah, from which, in fact, this poem is in fact quoted. Okay, the specific quotation is from Jeremiah and from the book of Isaiah. So let's look. Jeremiah 18:6. Vayitzer. There was my slide. I spent such a long time on this slide, and I almost forgot to show it to you, but there it is. It's beautiful, right? Excellent. Okay. Genesis 2:7. There we are. Okay. So we're going to come to this now in a second. All right. So Jeremiah 18:6. I don't always like to hear only my voice. Martha, would you like to read?
Sure.
Thanks. Jeremiah 18:6, please.
O house of Israel, can I not deal with you like this potter, says God? Just like clay in the hands of the potter, so are you in my hands, O house of Israel.
Okay. So in the Hebrew, if you just look a little bit down in the Hebrew, so the first bit, it says ha-chayotzer hazeh, like this potter, lo uchal la'asot lachem beit Israel, can I not deal with you like this, nu'man onai? And then, Hinei Kachomer biyad hayotzer, like there is the exact quote that this piyyut is inspired by. Can you just read that again, Martha? Because I just really liked your inflection.
See if I can get it again.
Yeah.
O house of Israel, can I not deal with you like this potter, says God? Just like clay in the hands of the potter, so are you in my hands, O house of Israel.
Right. So Jeremiah is quite worried about Israel in this context, it turns out. The children of Israel just keep on not doing the right thing. And Jeremiah is very concerned that if they do not repent, then bad things are going to happen. If they don't try to do better. And look, here's this potter that has clay in the potter's hands, and the potter can mold the clay and make it whatever they like. So can God, if God could mold us to do better, all the better. And how do we become moldable for God? We open ourselves up to being vulnerable. We open ourselves up to humility. We accept that at the very basic level of everything is God. God is creator, God is omnipresent, God is omnipotent. Without God, we cannot be successful. Without God, we cannot fight battles and win them. Without God, we will die. So we place ourselves completely at God's mercy. Without God, there is no success. And therefore, with God, we could expect every success, right? If you put yourself in God's hands, you can't go wrong. James McBride. That's very nice. Okay, so this is Jeremiah's idea. And this is, this part of this piyyut, right? But then, using this yotzer verb, let's look at what Isaiah does with it, because it's something a little bit different and kind of cool. Right, I'm going to ask somebody else, and if you don't want to read, that's totally fine. Just say, just wave at me and say that you don't want to read. So, Daisy?
But now, O Eternal One, you are our Father, i.e., the one who generated this nation, and upon whom we are utterly dependent. We are the clay, and you are the potter. We are all the work of your hands.
Thank you, Daisy. ואתה אדוני אבינו, אתה אנחנו החומר, ואתה יוצרנו, ומעשה ידך כולנו. Right, but now, O God, ve'ata Adonai, avinu ata, you're our parent, our father, i.e. on whom we're totally dependent. We are the clay and you are the potter. We are all the work of your hands. But essentially, we're all the work of your hands. Ve'ata yotzreinu ma'aseh yadecha kulanu. That we have no choice about the fact that we have Yetzer Hara within us, because you are the potter and we are the clay. We are nothing but clay in your hands. It's not only that we can be, Jeremiah said, yes, we open ourselves up in vulnerability and humility before God, and God makes things successful for us through the Yotzer, through the formation of being this potter. But Isaiah is actually not thinking that. Isaiah is saying, you are God, we're the clay, don't hurt us, right? Like, we're not responsible here. It's a little bit chutzpahdik, okay? It's like saying, well, and I'll get to that in a minute, because it's a little bit chutzpahdik. It's a little bit like, you made us how we are, so you can't blame us for who we are, right? You shaped us, you formed us, we are literally putty in your hands, so please just don't forget that. So God, in addition to being the reason for all our successes, is the reason for all our mistakes, right? You are Our Father, we are the clay, you are the potter. And here I just chose this picture I want to tell you because can you see the curvy pot? Now, obviously, it's a very perfect pot that the picture... But I still felt like God was making us a kind of wavy instead of perfectly round. Okay. So, okay. So we have these two sides of things, and we have looked at some of these different ways to see Yetzer, Yotzer, Yotzreinu, all of these words that come from the poem and then play themselves out in Tanakh and in the literature to talk about what's happening with these poems. So we see now with this piyyut what's happening. So we can see now, right, that this is just part of Jeremiah, right? We're only human, right? We're imprisoned in our own physicality. Part of Isaiah. We're only human. We're imprisoned in our own physicality. You can't blame us for what's happening here. Please don't blame us. And the context of this piyyut is Kol Nidre night. And what's happening on Kol Nidre night? On Kol Nidre night, we are asking and pleading for forgiveness. We're saying we made all these vows and we're sorry we didn't keep them, or we're going to make vows and we're sorry we're not going to keep them. And we're sorry we're not perfect. We're sorry we're so human here. That's the context of this piyyut. So we make mistakes because we're human. God was frustrated with our capacity for evil and therefore flooded the earth. And we make mistakes because we're human, and we're flesh and blood. We're clay, right? We're not immortal. We're not angels or spiritual fiery beings, right? We come from dust and we will return to dust. And then after the flood, God realized that God can't actually punish us for that thing because God is our Yotzer, our potter or our creator. God Yotzered our Yetzer. And promised not to destroy the world again through Brit, through covenant. Essentially, it seems to me that this is talking about honouring our human vulnerability and preserving it because God created it within us. Not only saying, well, we're really sorry God created it within us, but saying, but look, actually, this could be a strength. Maybe, like Jeremiah, we'll be super humble and super vulnerable and super open, and God will be able to be let in. And maybe because Yetzer is not all really bad, right? Our capacity for thinking out of the box, for being bolshy, is actually how you get ahead in life. If you don't have any Yetzer within you, you won't make children. So the conflict that happens between us is played out beautifully in this piyyut. And is played out within the narrative of Noah, and then later within the narrative of Jeremiah and Isaiah, with the same kind of the same kind of conflict between power and vulnerability, right? And that very powerlessness, as it were, putting ourselves in God's hands in either way, because we believe God is responsible for every success, or because we are simply putty in God's hands, in either direction, that actually allows Isaiah to build a defense for us on Yom Kippur, on Kol Nidre night, to defend us, possibly against the accuser at the gates, or possibly just, in general, and serves as the refrain of the piyyut, right? So Isaiah's prayer serves, Isaiah's words serve as the refrain of this piyyut, like clay in the potter's hands, look to the covenant and disregard our inclination, because we're imprisoned in our own physicality, just as God admitted after the flood, that we have earthly passions, we have we are people, we are human, we are only human. Can this be an adequate defense, though, really? I mean, can you say, well, if God made us like that, then that's just the way it is? This is an excellent defense for us? The rabbis don't think quite, really. They do say no, because actually God gave us the power to defeat this Yetzer, to overcome our mistakes. There's a quote here. Did I put the quote here? Oh, I didn't put it here. Okay. Which basically is from Genesis 4:7, which talks about how it's part of Cain and Abel, the story of Cain and Abel, where it says that sin is crouching at your door, but you can master it, right? You don't have to give in to it. It uses the word hate for sin rather than yetzer for inclination, but the feeling is the same. But on the Kol Nidre night, this piyyut is not really concerned with the metaphysical truth of whether or not really we can fight this sin. It's more just building a defense in one way or another for us with God. It's, because we're standing here at God's mercy. And I think that's what the Paitan, the poet, is trying to articulate before God, right? To basically is concerned to throw us at the feet of God's mercy, remind God of the first time God made a covenant with Noah and said that God wouldn't destroy the world again. And that was a covenant of compassion. It was a covenant of recognition of our good and acceptance of our mistakes, right? And it's a little bit chutzpahdik too, because for example, Sanhedrin 105a, and that's where this comes from. Rav Machman says that impudence is effective even toward heaven. And so there's a longer thing here, but basically saying that sometimes you have to be a little bit impudent, you have to be a little bit cheeky to get where you want to go, okay? Brachot 32a is another example of that, where basically Moses said, well, because of the gold and silver that you let the children of Israel take from Egypt, well, that's how they created the golden calf, just saying, right? So sometimes we have to kind of use a little bit of cheek to get our point across. But essentially, we're trying to remind God through this extraordinary piyyut that we need compassion and mercy and forgiveness and love, and we need tolerance and forbearance, and that we're not afraid to ask for it. Also, that we're vulnerable, that we're putty in God's hands, and that this piyyut, said by us, merely humans, right? But those merely humans are the beautiful work of God's hands. Whatever way you look at it, whether or not we are open to God completely and God being our complete, we are putty in God's hands, whether we are responsible for those things or not. It's basically less of a conventional prayer setting, and it's more of a judicial hearing in which the council pleads a defence with every argument at their disposal, from confession to self-abasement to the annulment of vows to the reminder of divine compassion after the flood when God forgave humanity for being merely human. So that brings me to Rhiannon, who's going to talk a little bit more about this human vulnerability that I have talked about. Do you want me to close this, Rhiannon? Yeah, I'll stop the share.
Yeah,
then.
maybe.
Yeah, I'll come back to it for there.
So thank you, Chazan Rebecca, I think, for setting up really the most challenging aspects of this text, and framing it really, it's framing it as this defense, as saying, really, maybe to some extent, there's only so much that I can do, and I kind of want to offer maybe another way, maybe a slightly, maybe parallel, not totally different framing of what this can look like in the context of human vulnerability. Because really, what does it mean for us to be sitting here saying, both attributing our flaws and our mistakes and our excesses to God? Both of those things is vulnerability. In the Midrash Shema Rabbah, we are reminded, and Chazan Rebecca has reminded us that the reason we were saved after the flood was due to our capacity for good. And that this capacity, or this evil inclination, this capacity for like making mistakes, is something that we are born with. It is there right from the very beginning. In order to have capacity for both of those things, we must also have capacity to recognize what is good and what is not good. It's not just the ability to do it, but for this to mean anything to us, we've got to be able to see the differences between the two. And see the differences between the two is quite confronting, especially on Kol Nidre, when we have hopefully just been trying to be maybe the best versions of ourselves for at least those 10 days in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. But it can be quite fronting to think that it's not just, I guess, vulnerability to be able to see the difference and really notice the difference between doing good and doing not good, doing evil, doing mistakes, being flawed. But the power in that as well. It is vulnerable because we have to acknowledge that there is a huge amount of power. And once we've acknowledged that, we've got the responsibility that goes along with it. And this takes, I guess, this nudges this piyyut a little bit further, saying, in the context of this powerlessness of, if I am only clay, really, what can I do? And instead going, I am clay, so I'm gonna have to do something with that. And this is our power. And something that Bexy said towards the end was about disregarding our evil inclination. And I want to offer that perhaps it is actually more vulnerable to recognize it. Not to put up a defense against it, but rather say, yeah, this is me, this is a part of who I am, I have to recognize it and I have to confront it. I have to confront it and accept it. It's what I've been given. It's so much easier, especially when there are bits about ourselves, maybe small things like I'm a nail biter. There are tiny things about yourself that like really, really annoy you. And to be able to take that and go, okay, but that is just a little bit, that's part of who I am. I need to accept that. And in accepting that and knowing that I've got the power to make a choice about it, the vulnerability really comes in that acceptance. And I'm going to ask you all to be a bit vulnerable for a moment. There is something that happens in the way that our music is written, our Jewish music, our liturgical music is written, that it tells a story. And it tells a story not just of the setting itself, of the music itself, but the setting rather tells a story of maybe where this piece of music came from. And as we get to have these like theological discussions and debates, we also get to have a similar thing happen in the changing of our music tradition. So we started with Chazan Rebecca's setting of Ki Hinei, one that is probably quite familiar, that we've heard quite a lot. And I am going to offer something quite different. This was written, this was revised 5 years ago, and it was written just a few years before that by Daniel Kaner and Cantor Zoe Jacobs, a setting that leans into that acceptance. It leans into what does it mean and to accept that, to bring compassion for ourselves in these moments as well, and see this piyyut as less of maybe see it as less of a defense and more of, I might say, a warm hug. Now, Liz Lerman is a choreographer, and she kind of takes Jewish prayer and turns it into choreography to understand prayer in a different way. And she has this gorgeous phrase, which is, I'm going to ask you to turn your discomfort into inquiry. I'm about to sing something in English. I know we don't always like praying in English, so I've nestled it. I am going to start with the Hebrew that the setting starts with. It's quite long, so I've cut out a bit of the Hebrew because I think the English bit is can give us some of those feelings of comfort. So this is our comforting, our compassionate Kihine. Hinei Kachomer Beyad Hayotzer Bertoto Machiv Uvertotom Katzer Kein Anachnu Beyadecha Chesed Notzer Labrit habet Ve'al tefen Layetzen. I am stone, I am iron, I am silver, I am glass, I am cloth, I am clay, and I am in your hands to be molded and shaped anyway. You are the artist, the giver of life and of death. Your call, your say, your will, your way. I am blessed. I am ink, I am paint, I am canvas. I am parchment and paper and pen. I don't have the answers why I am drawn in the ways that I am drawn, without shape, without form, at the beginning and the end. I'm an oar, I'm a sail, I'm a tiller, on a boat cast adrift on the sea. And I am in your hands, where you want me to go, you take me. You are the water, the fire and the earth and the air. Labrit habet ve'al tefen layetzen. Your call, your say, your will, your way. I am blessed. It's a warm hug, I think, and has helped me see a different power in what it means to kind of give yourself over to acknowledging that, acknowledging these all these bits of you are all you, and
like you said, Rhiannon, earlier about B'Tselem Elohim, right? We're all made B'Tselem Elohim, in the image of God, every part of us.
And I think this setting and this like alternative hug of a melody can remind us that if we really do put ourselves at God's feet on Kol Nidre, if we open up ourselves to the love that we have for other people, to the love that we have for God, and love that we can have for ourselves, which can kind of sometimes be that hardest part, and especially open up ourselves to that care of God. There's, being clay in the hands of a potter can be great, do whatever with me that you want to be, but I don't know if you've seen a potter at work. I've actually ended up watching a huge amount of the Great British Pottery Throwdown, and there is so much care that goes into each piece of pottery. It is really delicate and really fragile work, and perhaps what Kihine is doing on Kol Nidre is saying, it's okay for you to be handled delicately. You are a piece of clay, and you might need to be treated that way. And this thing, coming back to the B'Tselem Elohim, and coming back to the other things that are going on for us at this time of year. We've got this gorgeous idea that for all of us, we have two pockets. Oh, it's written up. Would someone like to? Who can I see on my screen? I'm gonna pull it back and say, Ava, are you happy to read the paragraph at the bottom?
Oh, okay. The one at the bottom.
Yes.
Okay, then. Everyone must have two pockets, with a note in each pocket so that he or she can reach into the one or the other, depending on the need. When feeling lonely and depressed, discouraged, or disconsolate, one should reach into the right pocket, and there find the words, "For my sake was the world created." When I'm feeling high and mighty, one should reach into the left pocket and find the words, "I am but dust and ashes."
Brilliant, thank you. This evening we've taken Ki Hinei Kachomer and we've turned it and turned it and turned it in our hands, and we've found that within this piyyut we both have, for my sake the world was created. We have, I am clay, I get to be looked after. It is all about me sometimes, and like maybe that's okay. Or sorry, we need that reminder. I've got it switched around in my head. We need that reminder when we're not feeling that way, that it's okay to be treated delicately. It's okay to know that we can be looked after, and that actually things were created for us. We can take up the space that we deserve to take up. And also, when we start to feel that maybe this is all too much, and we feel all too potted, and we're not quite sure how to find ourselves in it anymore, and it's feeling all too big and a bit too scary, to go, it's okay. I am just dust and ashes. I can still be molded. Things can still go okay. One of these gorgeous tensions of this time of year. Everything is both, I think. Everything can take us in both ways. We are, I think, back to the Yetzer and the Yotzer.
Thank you, Rhiannon. So I think we'll just end with a little bit more of the original music that we were looking at as well, and then some time for questions. Actually, let's do some questions first, and then we'll finish at the end with a bit of a sing-song. If there are any questions, I mean. It's okay if there are.
I have had one question in the chat, and I will say yes, I will share the link. When we share the recording of this, I can share a link to where you can find that setting of Ki Hinei. It's longer, there are harmonies, it's gorgeous. But if you want to listen to that after this evening, I'll send that through.
Maybe actually we want to listen to yours again, Rhiannon. I think
this recording will be up, so you'll be able to hear it there as well.
I'd like to hear yours again at the end. Yeah.
At the end of this.
Questions. Yeah, you.
Oh.
The one that you just sang. Would you finish us with that? I think that's, like you said, it's a big warm hug. We always need big warm hugs a week before Rosh Hashanah.
Sure.
Questions.
I'm gonna be a little bit selfish actually, and ask a question to you, Bex.
Don't think that's selfish.
Which was how did you what's it like? How did you come to finding this much beauty in Ki Hinei? Like how did you reach for that human vulnerability? I want to know kind of what was the inspiration there?
This piyyut, which I have this particular tune that I've always sung, and this particular refrain that I've always sung, and there's plenty of other people who would disagree with me about the refrain in particular, is just such a favourite of mine because I am a very visual person. I'm not particularly arty. I do like art, but I'm not particularly arty. But I don't count myself in the realm of creative people, but I do remember the feel of clay and pot under my fingers when I was little. I used to go and do a clay workshop somewhere as a summer camp once or twice, and I'm very visual in how I interact with Judaism. Like, I find meaning in making pictures in my head. Well, it's actually how I interact with the world, in fact. So this particular piyyut, which is so concrete, you know, it talks about clay and stone and iron and a boat. And it gives me the images to play in my mind, right? Like a movie. And that is why I wanted to know, like, I've always just sort of scrolled my way through those images, you know, kind of like scrolled down through, yep, got that image. And I actually wanted to like find more meaning in each of those images. And this year has been just so desperately sad in so many ways that I was really feeling my own vulnerability. And I wanted to find, like, I almost wanted to find something that was going to express that, and was going to illustrate it for me. And it seems like here it is. Or here's one of the options anyway. Yeah. That's my answer.
Thank you. If there are no other sort of questions or things to check, I am actually just going to close us out with a little bit of a shameless plug. As if you've been here the last 2 weeks, you've seen this already. But Shema Koleinu, which is the Masorti Tefillah education project, has excitedly launched its online resource. It's a website. It is at masortiprayer.org.uk. It's also, if you go to the Masorti website, you can get to it straight just by this button at the top of the page. It has a huge wealth of resources on it, depending on who you are and what you might be looking for. You can find all sorts of things in Shabbat services. It'll take you all the way through Kabbalat Shabbat. There's a lot of commentary. If we go to Lachadodi, for example, I don't think you'll find a resource anywhere with more melodies for Lachadodi in one place. So if you're looking to learn a little bit more about the tefillah, the prayer that we have in our shuls, if you want to pick up some more melodies to help joining in, if there was a question you didn't even know you had, but the website might answer it, just a bit of a plug to check it out, and to use it, see how it works, and especially as time goes on, we'll be adding more and more stuff to it as well. And we've got some stuff for the Chagim, for the High Holy Days on here too, so it can really help get you in the prepared mood for next week.
So will you finish with your kihine again?
Of course, we can definitely finish with it. I'm feeling a little, it's a really lovely way to end. This is officially my last day working on this project as well. So it's been very lovely to have been here and worked here. Gabriella, who is with us this evening, is going to be your new familiar face. So if hopefully you can see her waving, and we'll be excited to continue all of this fantastic work with her. So yeah, I can just get my music back out. We'll finish with this setting. A huge thank you, Chazan Rebecca, for bringing like your own vulnerability and your own self to this this evening. I have really loved learning with you and from you. Really,
Thank you for holding this.
Thank you.
And equally, I have also loved working with you, Rhiannon.
Oh, thank you. And I will invite you to sort of drift off and leave the meeting whenever you feel ready to go. And hopefully, yes, this can play you off into the rest of your evening and into our last week of preparation before Rosh Hashanah. Hinei Kachomer ברצותו מרחיב, וברצותו מקצר. כן אנחנו בידך חסד נוצר, לברית הבית ואל תפן ליצר. I am stone, I am iron, I am silver, I am glass, I am cloth, I am clay, and I am in your hands to be molded and shaped anyway. You are the artist, the giver of life and of death. Your call, your say, your will, your way. I am blessed. I am ink, I am paint, I am canvas, I am parchment and paper and pen. I don't have the answers why I am drawn in the ways that I am drawn, without shape, without form, at the beginning and the end. I'm an oar, I'm a sail, I'm a tiller on a boat cast adrift on the sea, and I am in your hands. Where you want me to go, you take me. You are the water, the fire and the earth and the air. לברית הבית ואל תפן ליצר. Your call, your say, your will, your way. I am blessed.
Good night,
Erev,
everybody.
Erev Tov, Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
Well, thank you very much, both of you, and Shana